Most people look at Jimmy Donaldson, known pretty much everywhere as MrBeast, and they just see a guy giving away millions of dollars, doing these crazy over-the-top stunts, or randomly handing out private islands. But what they often miss is the highly calculated, incredibly precise machinery running underneath it all. Today's explainer is definitely not your standard charity story. We are going to reverse engineer a digital machine. We're looking at the obsessive, almost scientific blueprint that turned a quiet teenager with a laptop into the architect of a literal global empire. Just to wrap our heads around the sheer gravity of what we're dealing with here, listen to this. By 2026, Jimmy Donaldson's personal net worth is estimated at $2.6 billion. His main channel alone has completely smashed past 440 million subscribers. We are talking about a scale of influence that honestly makes traditional television networks look tiny. So, how exactly did a kid from North Carolina build all of this? Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're tearing down this beast machine into 5 core schematics. 1. The laboratory. 2. The reinvestment engine. 3. Scaling beast industries. 4. Viral philanthropy. And 5. The legacy. Part 1. The laboratory, dissecting the algorithm. Let's rewind a bit to 2012. Imagine a 13-year-old kid in North Carolina treating the internet like its own personal science lab. He basically took that famous 10,000-hour rule, but applied it entirely to the mechanics of virality. For 4 straight years, he was posting videos to practically nobody. I mean, most creators would have just thrown in the towel, right? But Jimmy didn't. He obsessively studied his own failures to find the ultimate chemistry equation for human attention. Well, before he ever caught a glimpse of fame, he was literally reverse engineering retention graphs, trying to pinpoint the exact millisecond viewers clicked away. He rigorously tested the psychology of thumbnail colors and meticulously dissected the first 5 seconds of successful videos. He figured out that was the absolute make-or-break threshold. The guy was actively hacking human attention. And then January 2017 hits, and he puts this whole thesis to the ultimate test. He simply sits down, looks at a camera, and counts from 1 to 100,000. It took him 40 consecutive hours. It was bizarre, it was deeply tedious, and yet it was absolutely brilliant. It perfectly proved his foundational blueprint: extreme, undeniable effort converts directly into audience attention. And attention, as we all know, is the true currency of the internet. Moving to part 2, the engine, radical reinvestment. So once you actually capture all that attention, what do you do with it? Imagine you're practically living on ramen noodles and boom, you land your first big brand deal, 10 grand from an app called Quid. Most people would pay their rent, maybe buy a decent car. Instead, Jimmy filmed himself handing that entire $10,000 straight to a homeless person. He literally bet the entire farm on his next piece of content. And through that one specific stunt, he kind of accidentally stumbled upon the internet's most viral format ever: visible, spectacular generosity. As Jimmy himself puts it, giving wasn't just some business expense. Giving was the entire business model. This kicks off what we can call the radical reinvestment cycle. The views brought in ad revenue, and then 100% of that money went right back into the very next video, which obviously led to wilder stunts, massive sets, and naturally, even more views. There was zero lifestyle inflation here. Every single cent was weaponized to make better content. And the compound interest of all that attention, it leads us to a pretty mind-boggling reality. By 2026, the budget for just a single video regularly hits between $3 and $4 million, with some pushing past $10 million. And get this, he will happily throw away a multi-million-dollar production if the final cut is only quote-unquote good. For him, great is literally the baseline. Part 3. Scaling beast industries, the corporate factory. Now, managing budgets of that size, you can't just be a solo creator running around with a camera anymore. Under CEO Jeff Hausenbold, Beast Industries is a whole different beast, pun intended. We aren't just talking about YouTube. It's a massive media division, consumer goods like Feastables doing $250 million in sales, a tech arm with a fintech app, and even a $100 million streaming deal with Amazon. It is a full-blown multi-division conglomerate. But here is where it gets super interesting. In 2024, they generated $473 million in revenue, but zero profit. Why? Because this is a deliberate Amazon-style growth over profit strategy. He's playing an incredibly long game here, absorbing that short-term financial hit just to secure total, absolute global market dominance. And how do you lock in that global dominance? You completely shatter the language barrier. By heavily investing in multi-language dubbing and building localized channels, Jimmy went from an American creator to a true worldwide phenomenon. That strategic move is exactly how he became the very first human to cross 400 million subscribers in June of 2025. Of course, scaling an empire at this kind of breakneck speed definitely brings up some complex realities. The company has navigated a legal dispute regarding MrBeast burger quality controls, a review by the Mexican government over filming permits at Chichen Itza, and a 2026 workplace lawsuit from a former employee. These are essentially the inevitable structural challenges and growing pains that come with rapidly scaling a multi-billion-dollar business. All right, part 4, viral philanthropy, weaponizing attention. So navigating corporate growth is one thing, but the way this empire tackles global causes actually brings up a really fascinating, almost philosophical question. If you film your charity for views and revenue, is it still actually charity? Well, Jimmy's logic here is just ruthlessly pragmatic. He basically argues that combining capitalism with altruism allows him to scale his impact exponentially. If the pure entertainment value generates the funding that lets him help 10 times more people, then being visible about it isn't just acceptable, it's a strategic necessity. Let's actually look at how this builds over time, because the sheer scale is incredible. 24 million for Team Trees, 30 million for Team Seas, funding surgeries for 1,000 blind people, 40 million for clean water. In total, over $90 million generated for global causes. He essentially figured out that our brains are neurologically wired to respond to generosity, making altruism literally the most compelling content on the internet. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the legacy, the blueprint, and the vulnerability. As we look at the legacy of this whole blueprint, we really have to confront one massive critical flaw. For all its billion-dollar valuations, Beast Industries carries an enormous key man risk. Think about it. If a 27-year-old Jimmy Donaldson wakes up tomorrow and decides he is totally done making videos, this entire $5.2 billion enterprise faces an immediate existential crisis. Transitioning from a personality-driven channel into a self-sustaining institution is absolutely the ultimate test he faces right now. So, the really crucial takeaway here is that none of this was luck. It was a highly precise methodology. Master the mechanics before you scale. Reinvest every single dollar. Treat quality as non-negotiable. Turn kindness into a viral format. And think globally from day one. That is the exact playbook that conquered the internet. Which kind of leaves us with this one, lingering thought. This teenager in North Carolina took the YouTube algorithm, a system literally designed just to maximize your watch time, and he bent it into a massive engine for humanitarian impact. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that virality and virtue don't actually have to be opposites. So the real question isn't just what MrBeast is going to do next. It's how the next generation is going to use this exact blueprint to bend the attention economy for themselves. Think about that for a bit.